Sinaloa Cartel. For decades, this was the cartel with one face. Joaquin El Chapo Guzman, captured, escaped, captured again, and finally extradited to the U.S. in 2017. A life sentence followed in 2019. Case closed, the story seemed to say. The empire was supposed to die with his freedom, except it didn't. It split into two. One faction stayed loyal to co-founder Ismael El Mayo Zambada, who ran the cartel's smuggling networks for over 30 years while avoiding cameras almost entirely. The other fell to four of El Chapo's sons, known as the Chapitos, indicted by U.S. federal prosecutors in April 2023 for flooding American streets with fentanyl. Then, in July 2024, Zambada and Chapito leader Joaquin Guzman Lopez were both arrested together in El Paso, Texas, under circumstances neither faction saw coming. Today, the Sinaloa cartel runs as two rival power structures sharing one name, both still trafficking, both still fighting each other for control of Culiacan. Jalisco Cartel New Generation. For nearly a decade, CJNG built a reputation as Mexico's most untouchable cartel, thanks largely to its leader, Nemesio Oseguera Cervantes, known as El Mencho. A former police officer turned kingpin, he expanded operations into more than 40 countries while staying so elusive that only a handful of photographs of him existed. The U.S. offered $15 million for his capture. Then, on February 22, 2026, that streak ended. Mexican special forces tracked him to a house in Tapalpa, Jalisco, and killed him during a raid that also cost 9 soldiers their lives when a helicopter went down under gunfire. His death triggered roadblocks and arson attacks across more than 20 Mexican states within hours. Leadership fractured immediately. Court filings later named his stepson Juan Carlos Valencia Gonzalez, an American citizen, as the cartel's new top leader, now facing his own federal indictment for trafficking cocaine and methamphetamine into the United States. Gulf Cartel and Los Zetas. By the late 1990s, the Gulf Cartel was already one of Mexico's oldest trafficking organizations, but its boss, Ociel Cardenas Guillen, wanted better protection than street enforcers could offer, so he turned to the Mexican army itself. Except what he built wasn't a bodyguard detail, it was a private army. Cardenas recruited Lieutenant Arturo Guzman de Sena and roughly 30 fellow deserters from the elite Airmobile Special Forces Group, soldiers trained by the U.S. and Israel in counterinsurgency tactics. They called themselves Los Zetas, after the military radio code for command officers. After Cardenas was extradited to the U.S. in 2007, 3 men fought for control of the Gulf Cartel, including Zetas leader Heriberto Lascano. The rivalry exploded into open war in 2010 when Los Zetas broke away entirely, becoming an independent cartel and triggering one of the deadliest periods of cartel violence in Mexican history, La Familia Michoacana and the Knights Templar. In 2006, a Michoacan trafficker named Nazario Moreno took out newspaper ads insisting his organization La Familia Michoacana existed to protect the poor and fight outside cartels invading his home state. He framed it almost like a religious mission built on his own brand of evangelical Christianity. But the mission didn't end there. It got stranger. In December 2010, Mexican police reported killing Moreno in a shootout, though his body was never recovered. Several of his lieutenants, including former schoolteacher Servando Latuta Gomez, broke away and formed a new group named after the medieval Knights Templar. They built shrines to Moreno as a folk saint, San Nazario, and ran Michoacan through extortion, meth trafficking, and control over industries as ordinary as avocado farming. When Moreno turned up dead for real, DNA testing in 2014 finally confirmed it, years after his own funeral. Tren de Aragua. Tren de Aragua started as just another Venezuelan prison gang, running kidnappings and extortion from inside Tocaron Penitentiary in the mid-2000s. Prison gangs come and go. This one wasn't supposed to be different, except the prison never really contained it. As Venezuela's economy collapsed and over 8 million people fled the country, Tren de Aragua's members fled with them, rebuilding cells along the same migration routes into Colombia, Peru, Chile, and eventually the United States. In September 2023, Venezuelan forces raided Tocaron to retake it, but the gang's leadership escaped and kept operating from outside. By February 2025, the U.S. State Department designated the group a foreign terrorist organization. In June 2026, a joint U.S.-Venezuelan operation killed longtime leader Hector Guerrero Flores. known as Niño Guerrero in Bolívar State, leaving at least 3 rival figures now competing to replace him. Clan del Golfo. In 2006, Colombia officially demobilized its right-wing paramilitary movement, the AUC, and on paper, that should have been the end of one of the country's deadliest armed factions. Brothers Dairo and Juan de Dios Usuga were supposed to lay down their weapons. Instead, they rebuilt. Operating under the alias Otoniel, Dairo Usuga turned the remnants into the Clan del Golfo, a franchise-style network that grew to roughly 6,000 fighters controlling Colombia's Urabá region, a corridor prized for its access to both the Caribbean and Pacific coasts. The group taxed other traffickers just to move cocaine through its territory, and later charged migrants for passage through the Darien Gap. Otoniel was captured in 2021, extradited to the U.S., and sentenced in 2023 to 45 years plus $216 million in forfeiture. The organization outlived him. In 2026, federal prosecutors charged its current leader with narco-terrorism for continuing the same operation, Primero Comando de Capital. In August 1993, 8 inmates at São Paulo's Taubaté prison founded a group with a simple stated goal: better treatment and basic rights for Brazil's prisoners. Prison gangs with that kind of mission statement rarely last, and Brazilian authorities largely dismissed it as one for years. It didn't stay small. The Primero Comando de Capital, or PCC, grew into Brazil's largest and most disciplined criminal organization, run through a structure of cells under a top leadership council still directed largely from behind bars. It expanded cocaine routes through Bolivia and Paraguay, moved into more than 20 countries, and now numbers in the tens of thousands. In June 2026, the United States designated the PCC a foreign terrorist organization. The same month, Brazilian investigators traced roughly $19 million in laundered drug proceeds tied to the group. Its top leader, known as Marcola, has run the organization from prison for over 2 decades. Comando Vermelho. During Brazil's military dictatorship in the 1970s, guards at Rio de Janeiro's Ilha Grande prison made an unusual decision. They housed left-wing political prisoners in the same cells as ordinary criminals, assuming ideology and crime wouldn't mix. It was meant to isolate the guerrillas, not organize them. It backfired completely. The political prisoners taught the criminals their discipline, codes of conduct, and organizational structure, and the 2 groups formed a self-protection alliance guards labeled Comando Vermelho, a name the prisoners kept for themselves in 1979. Once released, members used that structure to build a cocaine pipeline straight from the Colombian Medellin and Cali cartels into Rio's favelas, filling a vacuum the Brazilian state had left for decades. The group later inspired São Paulo's PCC and now runs operations stretching into Bolivia, Paraguay, and Peru. In October 2025, Rio deployed over 2,500 officers in its largest anti-Comando Vermelho operation in history. And months later, the U.S. formally labeled the group a narco-terrorist organization.